Very proud to speak on behalf of business each and every day in our great state of New Jersey. As you know, at BIA, we advocate tirelessly for all of you for an agenda that is an affordable and regionally competitive business climate here in the state of New Jersey. And we realize, well, that's a very tall task. At the same time, we tried to provide all those good products and resources to help keep that cost of business down. What I really love about this morning was the opportunity to spend some really good one-on-one time with many of you. And, you know, in that discussion, hearing the great stories of the great businesses and things you do here in the state. A few people, you know, I talked about what's going on in your business environment, what are your big issues right now, and then we hear that, but then it comes back around to what you're doing for community. And I always love to say, and I must say, and I have to say like 10 times a week, great businesses make great communities, and great business leaders make those great businesses that make great communities. And you are the job creators, and that's the story we have to tell each and every day. We get really excited when we can do an event like this, which is a little different than our day-to-day policy stuff, in that we can focus on some issues that are kind of top trending, things that you have to think about each and every day in the operations of your business, and bring out some really great speakers to do that. So we're going to cover talent retention strategies, achieving sustainable growth and quality, understanding today's economic landscape, AI and energy, and other factors that affect our New Jersey economy. But first, I'd like to thank the companies that helped to make this morning possible. Our Business Roundtable partner, Citizens Bank, our breakfast partner, Plymouth Rock, our bronze partners, BCG Securities, Integris, Moxie Print, NJBIA, New Jersey Resources, and our event partners, Association Member Trust, Focus New Jersey, Manufacturing Counts, Minding Your Business, the award-winning New Jersey Business Magazine, and our podcast, Planet New Jersey. Let's have a round of applause for those partners. So there was a little bit of like a bracket theme to what was going on today. We have these really fun little basketballs out there, but I'll just give you a real quick fun aside. We had a bracket race at BIA, and we were having a lot of fun with it. I'm sure many of you had, you signed up for brackets, and you picked your winning teams. And I'm sure a lot of you gave a really scientific approach to your brackets, right? I mean, because that's what we do. We say, who are the best teams to come through, because it's all about winning, right? I could tell you I went right emotional, straight heart. It was the first year the High Point University Panthers were in it. My daughter graduated from High Point. I had High Point going all the way. I was out the first round, of course, right? And my second pick, of course, was Texas A&M, because I went emotional for my great colleague, Wayne Staub, and his son, who graduated from there, is now serving in our military overseas. So I went all the way, and I was out in like 2 or 3 brackets. So much for emotions. Maybe next year we'll put scientific behind it. But let me say that, today we're very fortunate to have a great MC who's going to lead us through the day. I'll just pop back up at the end for a few closing comments. But leading us in the discussion today is our great partner, James Barrood, founder and CEO of Innovation Plus, he's an advisor to Tech Council Ventures and Jumpstart Angels. Very deep in the tech space, an amazing subject matter expert, and all about innovation. True cornerstone of our innovation ecosystem, over 25 years of experience in nurturing and supporting startups, growth companies, and higher ed institutions. He leads a global network of more than 10,000 entrepreneurs and innovators, and is a trusted expert on AI and executive education programs focusing on AI. He's also one of our strongest partners at NJBIA, and we're so thrilled to have him with us here today. Jim, the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Michelle, for that far too generous introduction. Speaking of, sort of treasures of the state, I'm not just saying this, but yesterday I flew in from Italy, and was in the line for the customs or immigration, and I saw the New Jersey Hall of Fame. And Michelle, you're going to be in that Hall of Fame one of these days, if you aren't already, because you are really a state treasure, and we're really lucky to have you as one of the best business leaders and advocates for the state, right? For so many years. So just thank you for your leadership. Thanks to BIA, thanks for all the sponsors for making this happen. We're going to have a fun event today, and very interactive. So just start lining up your questions, because that's what this is all about. I was discussing with some of the speakers earlier, we have all the information on the planet at our fingertips, right? And I was just doing this with ChatGPT. I saw all these mini cars in Rome, or in an island called Ischia off Rome, and I would take a picture and I would find out God, I never saw that car before, and I would find out where that car was from. And now all of the information on the plane is at our fingertips. We can have all the insights, in the moment. The benefits of having humans and human panels is that we can ask questions, right? And that is one of the best benefits, to get that context and get personalized answers that we wouldn't be able to get just from typing in something or talking into our phones. So I want to make sure that we take advantage of that, take advantage of human engagement, right? Which is so much more important these days. So our first panel is going to be on talent retention. And so I have two amazing leaders in the field. I'm going to ask them to come up. Come on up, John. Come on up, Kristi. Grab a seat. And we have a half hour for each of the panels, right? So we're going to talk for a few minutes, right? I'll have them share some insights. I'll prompt them, right? Very common word these days. And we're going to hear some insights. But those insights are going to prompt you to ask questions. So we're going to get into the questions very, very, very early, because I want to make sure that we answer all your questions, because when we answer your questions, then that will answer a question of someone else, but it will also prompt that other person to ask another question, building on your comments and your questions. So we're going to get started. I'm going to stay here, if that's okay, right? We're going to do introductions, and I'm going to start ladies first. I'm going to ask Kristi to introduce herself. And I'm going to, we're in a time of uncertainty, right? And that's what this, we're going to talk about a lot of that these days. That's why your insights are so important. But why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, Kristi, and tell us what's keeping you up at night. How's that?
Sure. So I'm Kristi D'Angeli. I'm CEO and founder of Work Dynamics. This is actually our 15th year in business this month. So we are a national recruiting and HR consulting firm. And so working in talent is really my life. And I would say the one thing that kind of keeps me up right now is the world is changing, especially as you mentioned with AI. It's reshaping what our job descriptions are. And it's getting the buy-in from organizations and from the talent to understand that you have to shift your mindsets and work on how you're skilling yourself so that you can adapt with the new world. And a lot of my clients, I still have to have conversations with them on what you're looking for. This picture-perfect person doesn't exist in the way that you see it. You have to reframe that. You have to upskill. You have to train people and work with them and understand that it may take a little bit of time to invest in that, but long term, you're going to come out on top and be better, more secure. And I think that's one of the challenges that keeps me up, is getting people to buy into that the way we've always done things doesn't work anymore, and we have to change our mindset.
Great, thank you. John?
Good morning. My name is John Christian, Director of Human Resources for NJBIA. Hard to say, I understand. I would like to introduce I've got three talented co-workers with me here today, Eric, Vivian, and Katie, sitting here with us. So go see them at the table afterwards. Kristi did mention her young son also keeps her up at nighttime too, so that's another thing that keeps her up at night. But I've been in the HR world for probably over 20 years. I came out of a couple different things, the background, education, banking. Recently I was with Tata Chemicals in the manufacturing field, and just now with NJBIA, so we're in the accounting field. So I've got a lot of experience in HR. It's changed a lot since I first started, probably same with Kristi. It was very paper-based when we first started, now it's all automated, right? So a lot of different things that we've seen throughout our careers. So we're happy to share with you. What keeps me up right now is basically, I think, more the balance of balancing acquisition and also, business needs. And so you don't want to ever overhire, but you also don't want to underhire. So you have to always kind of keep some balance there. And I think sometimes that's difficult, particularly in the accounting world, where we've have a dearth of talent at this point in time. Accounting majors are down over 20% nationwide. But accounting needs have at least continued, if not grown, dramatically. So that's why you're seeing a lot of offshoring now. People going to other countries because they need the person power to be able to do things. So we're facing that challenge. We're working right now with the NJBIA and other companies. We have this 150-hour requirement that we're trying to get rid of in accounting. So there's a lot of things we're trying to do to make accounting more of an attractive field. STEM was a very successful initiative, started about probably 20 years ago, I guess, right? I thought it should have been STEAM, and they could have added accounting to it, but anyway, they didn't follow my lead for that. But you can see what can be done, right? So they started this STEM. People were driven that way. We now have a tremendous amount of IT talent, a tremendous amount of research. Good, but we lost the accounting side. So it's kind of interesting how that works. Nursing side, right? Lost that. So it's kind of interesting how that works. So we can do it, right? As a United States can do it. We can make it happen. So.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk about 3 areas here. We're going to fly through them. Attracting talent, right? Keeping talent, retention, right? And then how do we scale? A lot to cover in just a few minutes. But so I'm going to ask you one question. Before a job even gets posted, what should companies think about? Because we have a bunch of small, medium-sized companies that are thinking about hiring. What, just real quickly, what should folks be thinking about?
So in this instance, I always tell people you need to start thinking about what is this position doing for your organization, not just in the short term, but in the long term. And where do you see that position growing and that person growing in that role? What is the problem that they're solving? So as you're developing your job description, you're not just focused on the tactical things of the day-to-day, but what are the personality traits? What are the core values that you're looking for in that person? What are some of the skills that they'll have as they grow in that role so that you can account for that and build that into an interview matrix when you're interviewing these people to ensure that they're meeting both your short-term and your long-term goals. But the core values, I think, are the most important because in today's world, you can teach anyone anything. It's more a matter of do they have the right mindset and do they have the right values that you can fit within your organization.
Yeah, I'm going to amplify that and probably repeat some of what you said as well. I think you also need to figure out who you are as an organization and what do you want to attract in an individual. I was just happening to be listening to ESPN Sports Radio on the way down here, and they were talking about some of the questions that they asked the first-round draft picks, right? So one of the teams actually put together a playbook, and in the back of the playbook, they had a $100 bill. Only one person returned that $100 bill to an organization. Happened to be Cam Ward, who was the #1 pick by the Tennessee Titans. So they wanted something very specific, right? So think about who you are. What do you value? We talked about value. What is it that you want? And will that person fit in my organization? How many times have you seen a superstar, right? But they come onto a team or into an organization, and they almost ruin the organization because they just think that they're so great, they're so self-centered, whatever. So are you very team-oriented? In accounting and the audit side, we want people who are team-oriented. So when I recruit, I look for people who have done sports in high school or college because they're used to working with teams, or people who have been in organizations and run organizations. They're used to working with teams. I don't necessarily want somebody in that role who has never been on a team, doesn't understand what a team is, and is very individually oriented. Doesn't mean they're a bad person, just means they're probably not a great fit, for our organization in that situation.
That makes a lot of sense. Remember, when all the information on the planet is available, instantly, the value of, relationships and working with teams and, working with other people becomes that much more important because all the information insights.
I just want to jump in really quick. And one thing I think that's important is once you establish all of what you're looking for, how are you showcasing that to the public? How are you sharing your brand? How are they viewing that? And this is where I think HR and marketing have really become true partners in the business, because how are you showcasing why, again, you're the best place to work, what benefits you offer, what sets you apart, how you can be flexible, what you can give that employee. So the employer branding has really created a whole shift where HR actually has a huge marketing element now for the organization.
Great point. Any questions? So let's talk about attracting talent. Any quick questions? Anything? Okay. So let's move on. Clearly, AI, we just mentioned, has that been helping attract and screen candidates, or we hear stories about people using AI during an interview, or at least I've heard that. But how are you guys using AI to help attract and screen? Is there any magic bullet?
Well, we were just talking about this. So I like to think AI isn't something that should scare us just yet. If anything, it's redesigning our roles within organizations. So for recruiters, what I was sharing with John earlier is so many people are thinking it's taking my job, it's taking my job. What it's doing is it's taking the administrative part of your job. So now, where you used to stop as a recruiter with, okay, you're onboarded, bye, I'm gonna go start hiring the next person, you could now be part of their entire journey until they're no longer with the organization. That's a whole role that a company's never had. Someone who's essentially, if for better lack of a word, a guidance counselor in corporate, guiding you through your day and making sure you're okay, checking in on you. And that's a whole other element of AI's now reshifting a job. So I'm actually having an event next 2 weeks where Dr. Solange Charis from Columbia University is coming to talk to us about how AI is actually going to be able to create more jobs in the sense, again, reframing what we're doing and how we're spending our time, but it's, are we opening up our minds to consider that? So yeah, AI does have its places where it needs to have boundaries. So for example, all of the laws that are passing here in New Jersey, New York, and other states about how we use AI in the hiring process is being monitored to ensure that there is no disparate impact, which is very important. But this is still uncharted territory we're trying to navigate. So we have to kind of look at how does it help us? Is it helping hiring managers who never knew what interview questions to ask? That, okay, I shouldn't ask this, but I can ask this. How do I write a job description? Yeah, those things are really helpful and give us time back to better spend our time.
Great. John, let's move on to retention, just because what's the key, what's working to retain employees? Just quick insights. John?
So I think what's important is even a step before that, right? So you can have a great organization, you can do wonderful things and whatnot, but the reality is we provide employment to people, right? We pay them to do work for us. So I think you have to look even before them being there, and is this the kind of employee that will stay with you, right? So if somebody's coming into your organization that has outlandish expectations or different things, whatever, I don't care what retention programs you have in place, they're not going to stay, because they've got different things. The average career span is, 2 years, 3 years, I think it is right now. So understand that, right? So we keep trying to battle against this concept of, we have to retain all our employees, and it is true, you have to do that. But if the average career span is only 2 or 3 years, I mean, how much energy are you putting into retain? So create a great environment, create an environment you're comfortable with, create an environment your organization can afford, right? Because that's the other big piece of this too, right? As a company, you have to pay for this stuff as well. You make it world class, but understand that a certain amount of people are going to leave, but try to recruit the people who fit your organization, fit what you are, and I think you'll be much more successful in retaining people.
I think also with retention, it's about listening to what your employees are looking and what they want and what they need and keeping an open mind. The biggest challenges I find with companies that don't listen is they're the ones who have the employees leaving. Open transparency is everything. People want to be part of the solution today. They want to know where the organization is going and the role that they fit. So the leaders that are open, transparent, supportive, ask how their weekend was, remember their families' names, those are the organizations that are going to succeed and do well because they're remembering that they're a person too. They have the same problems that I do. So I think also just being a human in the day-to-day and recognizing, okay, how can I be flexible, understanding that in today's climate, all right, if you live near Route 80, you're going to have some trouble getting to work on time. If you rely on the train system, it might be broken tomorrow. So you don't know if they're going to be at work on time. So learning to understand to be flexible. If they have childcare issues, we were just saying how if you need a doctor's appointment now, nothing is during after hours. Everything is during work hours. So how are we accommodating our work staff with the reality of the world around us?
So I think just to amplify that too, it's almost an individual retention plan, and we were talking about this, earlier. Be careful with sweeping retention plans, right? Because it's not going to meet everybody's needs. Talk to your people, like Kristi was just saying. Talk to them. What do you need? What do you need? What do you? And can I accommodate that within my organization? Be careful from an HR perspective. You don't want to make exceptions to one person and not to another person, whatever. So you got to be a little bit wary of that. But that individualized plan for each employee, I think will go much further than a $1 decrease in the premiums of your health care. Okay, so like Kristi said, I think it's absolutely correct. Talk to your employees, talk to them, and understand them.
Any questions on retention? Any questions? Okay,
we're that riveting.
I should ask.
We're doing great.
I'll ask my guys.
It's early.
Why do you guys stay with Nisavachi? I should put them on the spot.
What about? Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, again, I think that's industry specific. You have to focus on, again, what is a requirement of the job. Obviously, if you're operating a machine, that's not something you're going to be able to do from home, but you can also figure out how you can do flex scheduling. We do a lot of partnerships with New Jersey Manufacturers Extension Program, and we talk about how do we keep their staff in a good place, knowing that they have rotating shifts, maybe a husband and wife work on different shifts to accommodate daycare, that's an accommodation. Do we go to 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week so they have more flexibility? If you are someone working from home, do you have right accountability in place to make sure that they're meeting their performance metrics? And this is where performance management really comes into play. And I'm surprised how many organizations are not using performance management tools. That's how you really keep everyone, I don't want to say in line, but you hold them accountable. Accountability is the number one thing that you need to focus on when you're dealing with remote employees. I know for me, I have 2 companies. So for Work Dynamics, my entire team went remote this year, and I actually gave that space to my other company. Being, most of them are moms and grandmoms. They want the flexibility to get their kids at daycare, to deal with their grandchildren. That means more to them. And I have to tell you, they work that much harder for me than they did prior because they have the flexibility. Even I was telling him, my director of HR has aging parents. She needs the flexibility to be there to help her father and her mom. So as long as she gets her work done, she's there, I'm happy. My one executive is a grandmother. She doesn't care about a raise. She just wants time with her granddaughter. She moved to 4 days a week. I got to tell you, though, she's still working 5 or 6, but again, because she's that much more loyal.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a different experience. It was interesting. I was talking to Kristi about it, too. I was back in the office May of 2020 with 9 other people, right after COVID. And we came back full-time probably within 6 months or so back to the office. A lot of it was driven by the young people. Our young people wanted to come back. They didn't like being home. Unfortunately, we had to terminate a couple because they just, we lost them. I don't know what happened to them, unfortunately, in the the whole world there. But they wanted, because they wanted to be trained. And in accounting, you kind of have to be there to train, right, with people. So we had it's interesting, but we still do allow people to come to us. I mean, Katie's an example of that. Eric's an example of that. If they need to be home a day a week, we build in some flexibility, like Kristi was saying. I think it's perfectly right. But that training element, we found it had to be in person in the office. That worked out much better, for our people.
Yeah, I have 2 interns starting, and even though my team's remote, I said the interns need to be in the office at least 1 day a week, even if it's not with my other staff and it's with my tech people, because I need them to understand the interactions of being in an office and how to communicate and how to mingle. So I think there has to be a balance.
Yeah, for sure. We really have to make sure the younger generation develops those skills, those interpersonal skills, right? So thriving, scaling, creating a culture, for growth and for performance. Any quick thoughts on that? We only have a few minutes left. I want to make sure we get some questions.
I think the biggest issue is strategy, right? So you have to have a strategy. What is it you want to do? HR will go out and hire people. We can hire people all day if you want us to. But what is the strategy for scaling, for growing? What is it? And it can be, we're going to be static for a year. We're going to grow 10%, whatever happens to be. But that's where that marriage comes in between HR and marketing and strategy. So make sure that you, as HR person, understand the corporate strategy and what you want to have happen. Our firm is big on organic growth. We happened to purchase a firm that Vivian worked for, Anderson, about 3 years ago. One of the first firms we ever bought. It was about 7 or 8 people, Viv, right? I think when we bought you guys. But that was big for us. So our strategy is organic growth. That's how we scale. So it's going to be a slower, smaller scalability with organic growth versus doubling in size when you buy somebody. Just a different strategy. So understand the strategy before you go down that path too far.
I think also that goes to that, and this also goes to the art of retention, is investing in our people and in our future managers. What you saw over the past few years is 70% of managers weren't properly adequately trained to be a manager, and as a result, they failed in their positions, didn't have the support, they left those organizations, and then those organizations were kind of faltering. We have not spent enough time investing in the people that we're bringing up into management and building that succession plan. I'm spending a lot of time with organizations on how do we create strategy around succession, training, mentoring, even creating ambassadors within our organization that speak for it. And to your point, if you're going to do that, you need to know the business and what they do that you're in there supporting. And, in HR, it's critical that, okay, we can't hire because operations has got this bottleneck going on, or we have, this going on a legal scale that could affect us, so we've got to be strategic. We need to understand that all of the departments are talking to each other.
Got it. Okay, any quick questions? Quick questions, lightning questions and lightning answers. Anything. We're closing this out. All right, Sean?
Well, I can tell you we're fairly flat, to be honest with you. We'll replace as people go, but we're not necessarily looking to add any extra, I guess is the best way of saying. We still have a big intern program. We run about 35 people through our intern program every year. So if we see some really good talent there, we'll take it on. But in general terms, the growth of the last couple of years is not going to move forward at this point.
And I can tell you, so we support every industry, and we're, as a recruiting firm, thankfully, we have many lines of businesses, but our recruiting firm, this is the slowest it's ever been in 15 years, because companies are flat. They're keeping, people are not looking to leave, so even for the openings that we have, they're harder to fill right now because people want to stay where they are of the uncertainty. They don't know what's going on. So we've actually expanded our services beyond our HR consulting to now do outplacement services and coaching, and we do workshops. We're trying to pivot based on the market and the situational needs. But to your point and your question, I don't see a huge hiring, and you even see that in the news. It's just the uncertainty. I really hope that I'm wrong for my sake and my business's sake, but it is pretty flat from what I see.
Yeah, and I think, to be specific, too, there are certainly parts of the economy that has growth. I mean, nursing is one example. Hospitality, certain things like that. But I think in general terms, it's pretty flat.
Oh, quick question. One more. Then we have to close this out.
I can hear you, but yeah.
Okay. There we go. Touching on AI and taking a step back, have you had any trouble with hiring because of AI bots rejecting candidates that are putting, let's say, their CV or their resume in? And they might be a really stellar candidate, but for whatever reason, AI didn't recognize that because of a trigger.
It's funny. So I don't use AI in that respect, but I was talking about this. So we're currently working with a government agency to implement an ATS for them. And so we're exploring all of the features. And one of the things they purposely don't want is an AI bot that's going to do that, because in their situation, it's 911 call center reps. That's not something that people have a standard job description or experience for. So they like to look at the full resume and know that a bot or a keyword is not going to fit in that instance. So that is what a lot of people are afraid of. What I have experienced is, on the job boards where they're sending me resumes they think fit the job, and they actually do not in any way, shape, or form. We actually decided as an organization, most of our clients, they're sponsoring Indeed jobs. So what's the point in us sponsoring? So we get more success from hunting candidates because the tools, they're just not effective yet in terms of reading the resume and what the client's looking for, because our clients come to us for purple unicorns, and the AI bot's not going to find the purple unicorn.
All right. This has been a great panel. Thank you so much.